The global trade war is over! For now. Kind of. But who won and who lost? Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. Congratulations, everyone. You made it to Friday. Stock exchanges are closing for the weekend, and we can all take a moment to sit back and reflect on the past week. As you already know, April 2nd marked Liberation Day. That was the day the U.S. would begin imposing a universal tariff of 10% on every country on Earth, as well as heavy reciprocal tariffs on its biggest trading partners. The goal, according to Trump, was to level the playing field and help revive American manufacturing. But in the meantime, this totally upended the global financial system. Trump himself admitted that it would be painful, likening it to performing surgery, specifically one of those Civil War surgeries where the only anesthetic is a bottle of Grandpappy Britches and a wooden chair leg to bite down on. Put simply, the market was not happy. Trillions were instantly wiped out as investors worried we were headed for complete collapse. 401ks were hit hard. Markets in Europe and Asia went into a tailspin. Even the world's billionaires felt the pain. Seems just about everyone lost big. Except for me. Unlike those suckers, we here at America Uncovered put our money into rock-solid investments. That's right, I'm talking real assets. The currency of the future. Fartcoin! Wait, what's that, Shelley? We put all our money into Joe Biden coin? Oh, God, I'm ruined! Anyway, while it seemed Trump was intent on crashing this plane with no survivors, that didn't last long. On Thursday, he announced a 90-day pause on most of the bigger reciprocal tariffs, causing markets to shoot back up. So, that's it, it's over? Besides all you diamond hands Fartcoin holders, did anyone actually get something out of all this? While the biggest reciprocal tariffs have been delayed for now, the 10% baseline tariff is still in place. And that might have been what Trump wanted all along. In The Art of the Deal, he talks about the big ask, where you demand something crazy, then haggle your way down to your actual goal. Does that sound a little too much like the old 4D chess to you? Well, how about this one? Trump posted this video on his Truth Social, theorizing that he was crashing the stock market on purpose in order to drive investors into buying U.S. treasuries. That in turn would lower interest rates and allow the government to refinance its debts. But what's even weirder is that this theory first popped up back in March in a post on 4chan. Ah yes, 4chan. The only place I go to for all my Rule 34, snuff films, and financial advice. Well, if that really was Trump's master plan, it doesn't seem to be working so far. There was no massive buying of U.S. treasuries. In fact, there was a sharp sell-off of treasuries, which only ended after Trump paused tariffs. U.S. treasuries have been so volatile that some speculated Trump paused tariffs to calm the bond market. But U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent denies that it was a bond market panic that pushed Trump into backing down on tariffs. He said he had a long talk with Trump on Sunday, and this was his strategy all along. So, what did Trump's strategy actually accomplish? Trump's tariffs did succeed in bringing a whole bunch of countries to the negotiating table. On Wednesday, Bessent said that more than 75 countries have reached out so far. Among them, countries like Argentina, Israel, India, Vietnam, South Korea, and Japan have not only refused to retaliate, but are instead working with Trump to hammer out a deal. By lowering barriers and evening out trade deficits, they hope to avoid the worst of the tariffs. And according to the president, negotiations look promising.
I'm telling you, these countries are calling us up, kissing my ass.
Oh, boy. But if there's one country you won't see walking around with orange lip gloss, it's China. China hit back at the U.S. by imposing its own 84% tariff on American goods. But remember when I said Trump was putting a 90-day pause on most of those big reciprocal tariffs? The operative word there is most. The ones on China are still in place. Trump's 104% tariff on China has since climbed to 125%. And many see this as just the beginning. Multi-millionaire investor and Shark Tank host Mr. Wonderful says Trump needs to go even higher.
104% tariffs on China are not enough. I'm advocating 400%. I do business in China. They don't play by the rules. They've been in the WTO for decades. They have never abided by any of the rules they agreed to when they came in for decades. They cheat, they steal IP. I can't litigate in their courts. Xi can only stay the supreme leader if people are employed. It's time to squeeze Chinese heads into the wall now.
Man, that's more brutal than one of his famous royalty deals. But he has a point. China is completely dependent on exports, and the U.S. is the biggest consumer market on earth. If America shuts its doors to Chinese goods, where could they possibly go? The threat of cheap Chinese exports flooding the market has many countries on edge. The European Union, for example, has enraged Beijing by placing its own tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles. So if the developed world doesn't want its industries displaced by Chinese ones, that means China will have to sell to poorer, less developed nations. But that requires making Chinese products even cheaper than they already are. To achieve that, China may have already started devaluing its currency. We'll have to see how far they go because it's a tricky balancing act. Making matters worse is many of China's wealthy are trying to get their money out of the system, for example, by parking it in cryptocurrencies. You know things are bad if people would rather dump the yuan in favor of fart coin. For the Chinese Communist Party, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. Either exports go down and millions of Chinese workers lose their jobs, or their money is worth less, and it becomes harder for people to afford basic necessities like food. And you know, Chinese people are very sensitive about that sort of thing. The Chinese Communist Party's entire claim to legitimacy is its ability to raise the standard of living, because it sure can't claim to defend people's freedom. If life becomes harder for your average Chinese citizen, that poses an existential threat to the CCP. But don't take my word for it. Let's check in with our resident China expert and friend of the show, China Uncensored's Chris Chappell. Chris? Thanks, Chris. In any case, no one can really say who's won this round of the trade war. It's far from over, and a lot remains to be seen. Maybe the strain on America's economy will hurt Republicans at the polls and stifle Trump's plans. Perhaps Trump will work out some deals and it'll be fine. Conversely, it may be that China is just too big to contain. Or maybe their whole system will crash and burn. You'll just have to subscribe to America Uncovered and wait to find out. Regardless of the outcome, personally, I know what my plans are. Take my next mortgage payment and dump it directly into Fartcoin. Ain't no brakes on this train, baby! But what do you think? Who comes out on top? Leave your comments below. And please, help us keep bringing you great episodes like this. Subscribe to our new premium website, AmericaUncovered.tv, and you'll also get exclusive content, live streams, and more. Just click on this button that's been on the screen. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thank you for watching America Uncovered.